Hey guys, thanks for coming out. I know it's cold out here. Alright, so this is the Occupy Wall Street teach-in. We're doing this just to provide a place for dialogue, to talk about what's going on campus and what's going on downtown and throughout the nation. The Occupy Wall Street movement. We've got 3 speakers here today. They're each going to talk for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to have an open discussion session. It's not going to be quite a question and answer, but we really want everyone to be able to comment, ask questions, say whatever they'd like to say about the movement and about what's going on. So before we get started, we've got a sign-in sheet going around somewhere. If people want to sign up, we're going to be doing forums later on. We're going to be sending out emails and hopefully looking for some more organizers to help us get things going on campus. I just want to thank our sponsors. We've got we're sponsored by the Social Science Symposium Series, the Sociology Department, Faculty Minority Affairs Committee, and the Matrix Center. And if we can just save comments and questions for the end, for the discussion, that'd be great. And without keeping you waiting any longer, this is Joel Agner, and he's going to be our first speaker. Thanks.
Thank you, Kent. All right, hello everybody. I'd like to once again thank you, Kent, Jeff, Kaylee, Joe, UCCS, all of you and all of us for being here today. Obviously, over the past 30 days, there's been a bit of a spotlight. That spotlight is shining, maybe not just from the attention that we're putting on it with Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Colorado, Occupy Denver, Occupy Colorado Springs. The spotlight is also being put there by the problems that Americans face at their kitchen tables, as they figure out how they're going to pay their bills, as they're going to figure out how they're going to afford their medicines, as they figure out how they're going to get financing for their businesses so they can keep providing the services and the products that Americans need to both live and to stay employed. What is Occupy Wall Street? If you're to look at the actual statement from Occupy Wall Street itself, they define it, we define it, as Occupy Wall Street is a people-powered movement for democracy that began in America on September 17th with an encampment in the financial district of New York City. What do we want? We vow to end the moneyed corruption of our democratic republic. When I say moneyed corruption, I'm not talking about capitalism per se. Capitalism, in my opinion, is what drives innovation. Once again, this is my opinion. But I am fairly representative of what I would say to be about 40 to 50% of the Occupy movement. I do not have a problem with people making money. I do not have a problem with people making lots of money. What I have a problem with is politicians being bribed essentially through lobbying to pass laws that make it easier for corporations, primarily in the financial industry, such as Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, to extract tens of trillions of dollars from our economy. So I'll tell you what, it is hard to be a capitalist when you have no capital to work with. I'm in construction. I am a project manager. I used to handle primarily energy efficiency upgrades within the public sector. I have seen multitudes of hard-working construction companies, union and non-union alike, either go out of business or reduce their workforces by as much as 90%. The irony is that what drove a lot of this was the freezing of the credit markets. And the freezing of the credit markets happened right after they got the official bailout money. So the thing that leaves me concerned, and I think we as Americans, as the Occupy movement, and every American that actually cares about their Constitution, their children's future, and their country's future, needs to ask, who can be held accountable for the fact that we gave them not only our tax dollars, our children's tax dollars, our children's tax dollars, and somehow they would not lend it back to the small businesses that need it, even if we were going to pay interest for our own money. On top of that, a couple facts. The Federal Reserve, which is honestly a money factory, has been in existence since 1913. That's where all our money comes from, or at least what we think is money. And in 1913, up through now, they've had one audit. That audit was performed in the summer of 2011. What did that audit find? That audit found that the Federal Reserve has given out 16.1 trillion, with a T, dollars in undisclosed, otherwise known as secret bailouts, to not only banks such as Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, but to foreign banks as well. Why are we giving money to the Royal Bank of Scotland? Why is the Federal Reserve giving money to Deutsche Bank of Germany? Ask yourselves these questions. And by the way, you don't have to believe me. Go to the Government Accountability Office's website at gao.gov. Click on Federal Reserve Audit. All the information is there. Another question I would like to ask is, why is it on the front page that right now we have Bank of America moving over $53 trillion in derivatives over to the depository side of their bank, which is going to be essentially insured by the FDIC. The FDIC, as you may know, is what insures your bank account, and your bank account, his bank account, your bank account. 53 trillion. To put that in perspective, global GDP is 65 trillion. If this bomb actually explodes, which it's showing every chance that it will, because a lot of it's tied to European currency, and we know what's going on with European currency, we're going to literally see the economy as we know it, as already distressed as it is, potentially vaporize overnight. Because if there is a run on the banks and the FDIC is bankrupt because of that 53 trillion, when you go try to get your money out, it's not going to be there, and there's nothing to cover it. There's one thing in the movie Usual Suspects. There's a quote: "The greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing you he didn't exist." One of the greatest tricks that the financial sorcerers at the top of our economic pyramid played was convincing you that there wasn't a problem. And they do that by having these dangerous financial instruments with really nerdy and wonky terms, such as derivatives, such as quantitative easing, such as fractional reserve banking. And if you don't know what those three things are, I need you to write those down, and I need you to Google them. Fractional reserve banking, derivatives, quantitative easing. Because these are three weapons that are killing the American way of life. They are killing the American small business. They are killing American education. They are killing what it means, not only in America, but to be a global citizen. Because this, we have to keep in mind, is a global phenomenon. We have over 2,200 occupies around the globe right now. 2,300. It's hard to keep up. We as the American people, this is not a right or left issue. Do not let the media continue to tell you that. This is a right and wrong issue. If you look at the news will try to say that this is a bunch of socialists and Marxists. I'm a Republican. I'm a capitalist. I work with my hands. I have calluses. I break a sweat. I believe that if you invest money wisely, you take risks, you work hard, you should earn more than the next guy that wants to sleep till noon. I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem, though, with his white-collar criminality and what I perceive to have been potentially a financial coup d'etat that has taken over our country's financial system. And that coup d'etat financially has manifested itself as a political coup d'etat. Because I know a lot of people here that have seen that it does not matter whether we have a Republican or a Democrat, a conservative or a liberal in the White House. Our country is still on a downward spiral. Our quality of life is melting before our eyes. It is not un-American to demand accountability. It is American to demand accountability. I hold myself accountable. We should hold them accountable. If I was to rob from you in a hoodie and a pair of baggy jeans and get you in the parking lot and take $300 from you, I would go to jail. the gentleman at Federal Express, at Kinko's, who prints all my flyers, in 2008, he lost 30 grand from his pension. Somebody stole 30 grand from him by gambling his pension on exotic financial products that essentially exist almost as if they're a Las Vegas scheme in terms of betting on whether the horse will come in first or last. Somebody bet his $30,000. Somebody stole his $30,000. If I'm going to be held accountable for stealing $300 while wearing a hoodie and a pair of baggy jeans, I think a guy in a three-piece suit and $3,000 pair of shoes should be held accountable for that 30 grand. And so far, we've only seen maybe 2 or 3 people be even tried or charged or indicted with what are immoral and unethical practices. What I will call financial malfeasance. What I will call political malfeasance, as they have made it easier for these things to happen. And I will also say citizen malfeasance, because if you're not educated on the issues, if you don't practice critical analysis and aren't able to come up with your own ideas and your own understanding and intellectual ownership of the issues, if you let the issues continue to happen, then you are also culpable. You are also complicit. You are also complacent. And we do not have time for that. My child does not have time for that. I have a 7-year-old who has never had a credit card, never had a mortgage payment, never had a student loan payment, never had a car payment. His portion, his liability as just a citizen of the United States, of that $16.1 trillion that the Fed gave out, is north of $50,000. Why does my 7-year-old have a $50,000 liability because of what the Fed wanted to do? What they did behind our backs, behind closed doors. These are things we must consider as American citizens. We are not sheep, people. They want us to be sheep. We are humans, we are men, we are women, we are Americans. We take responsibility for ourselves. Part of taking responsibility for ourselves is to educate ourselves. And the biggest problem we're facing right now is based on facts. This is not a conspiracy theory, these are facts. Look up Congressional Budget Office records. Look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Look at the Federal Bureau of Economic Analysis. Look at the Government Accountability Office. You will see the numbers there. These are the numbers that are hard, cold facts. Educate yourself. Be an American. Vote with your actions. Vote with your heart. Vote with your dollars. But learn the issues, because our children can't afford for us not to.
This is Joel Egner. He's an organizer with Occupy Colorado Springs and a senior estimator and project manager at MDM Inc. Next up, we've got Joe Langston. He's a sociology graduate student here. He's also spent 8 years in the Army National Guard, and he is going to talk to us about some of the growing economic inequality going on in this country. Thanks.
Thanks, Camp. All right, so listen, what I've been put in charge to do today is kind of put together a research report that kind of deals with, this purpose for Occupy Wall Street. How many of you guys here today have not heard of the slogan 1% or 99%? Has everyone heard of that? Okay, what does that mean? What does that refer to? Well, it refers to 1% of our population in America possessing a grossly disproportionate amount of the nation's income and wealth, the 99% being disadvantaged thereby. Okay, economists have an actual term for that, and you're not likely to actually ever hear this, I suppose, in the actual Occupy Wall Street talks, but the term they use for that is called the Great Divergence. It's a term that economists use. But what is the Great Divergence? That refers to a set of economic trends where, and it starts in about 1979, where they actually picked this up at. Okay, but that refers to where the incomes and overall wealth possessions have become more unequal, with the greatest increases for the wealthy, the top 1%. Now, when I first heard of Occupy Wall Street, this 1%, this 99%, one of my first questions was, well, how did it ever really become this way? And this just didn't happen overnight. This has to have been a kind of thing that's happened over time. And so what would that look like if we go back and find out where this begins with, the beginning of the Great Divergence, okay? So just a few statistics on that. If you look back into 1973, okay, the 1% that we keep hearing about, back in 1973, they had about 8% ownership of the nation's income. So they're sitting at 8%. Fast forward to 2008, this 1% has about 18% of the national income. So 1973, 8%. 2008, 18%. Now, if that doesn't sound extreme to you, think about this. You look at 1980 to 2005. That would be a more than 80% increase in Americans' income going to that top 1%. So from 1980 to 2005, more than 80% increase for that top 1%. Now, how does all of this happen? What's driving all of this wealth into their hands and causing all of this inequality? So I had to dig through a lot of different research reports to come up with this for you guys. And one of the things I think would actually surprise a lot of people who are currently on the front of Occupy Wall Street right now, one of the primary factors that economists pinpoint is actually education. And, or I guess you could say failures of the institution of education in America. So let's see, since 1979, the income gap between people with college degrees and people without college degrees, that income gap between them has actually been growing. The reason is because education hasn't been able to actually increase the supply of better educated workers to meet the actual demand, which makes those who actually have college degrees, it makes them more valuable. They can bring in more income. But that primarily applies to the first half of the Great Divergence, so 1979 to 1994. So if you look from, I'd say, probably World War II era up into the 1960s, your high school graduation rates, they're somewhere in the 50s, right around post-World War II era. They climb up to about a little over the 70% graduation rates right there in the 80s, and it kind of levels off after that point. So, you know, everybody knows we have these economic booms that take place in the 80s and 90s, but despite that, the supply of high school graduates didn't actually rise with the technology-driven demand for workers. And so, because technology has been increasing, and it's been changing the job markets, but the type and rate of educational attainment hasn't really kept pace with that. And also, if you think about the 1950s, 1960s, the actual skills that people were learning in school at that time were actually fit for the type of economy that we had at that time. And so since we've kind of moved into what has been called the post-industrial type of economy, one that's driven largely by, you know, computer technology, that industry, those sorts of jobs are what we've been learning in school, in college, universities, hasn't really generated enough workers with the skills that we need to actually fill all those positions, which allows a very small percentage of the people who do have those sorts of skills to capitalize. So education is one primary thing. Another thing, moving out of education, and what's called an effective tax rate. An effective tax rate is actually how much you wind up paying of your taxes. I mean, minus all the other math that goes into that, it's what you actually wind up paying. Now, the top 1% in 1979, right when the Great Divergence started, their effective tax rate was actually 37%. So whatever they made, they actually paid out 37% of that. Today, that hovers somewhere around 29%. And so, I mean, over time, it's really jumped pretty radically, but that has been what the economists have called, not a major factor, more of a minor factor, but it's still something that you have to consider in terms of what's kind of driving this great divergence. And the third thing kind of falls underneath, I guess you would call it the relationship between government and business, and this kind of syncs up with what Joel was telling you. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about the lobbying in Washington. $3 billion a year budget for lobbying in Washington for a lot of big shot corporations these days. And that's more than triple what it's been in the past. So over the past 30 years, giant increase in lobbying offices there in Washington. The power and influence of big business thereby growing in Washington. And so really what you have is kind of like Wall Street and Washington are kind of in this reciprocal relationship with big businesses, to where they're catering to the financial interest of the powerful, and that kind of works. It kind of works both ways. They're playing off each other, and that kind of helps them all out. And this all really occurs in the context of policy choices that are made, the certain way that Washington chooses to do business that benefits business in this sort of way. That would also include the decline in organized labor, union busting practices. Unions used to be very strong in this nation, especially 50s, 60s, but if you look at some of the cooperation between big business and the government, Wall Street, over time, you see that they've actually managed to chip into organized labor and then decline their influence. So all those sorts of things, the tax rate, the business relationship between big business and government, and then of course all of those sorts of failures in education there. Now, I guess at this point it seems kind of moot to ask why would financial inequality, income inequality, wealth inequality be that important? I have to tell you, as a sociology student, sociology major, I look at something like financial inequality. What I really see is every type of inequality. You can't have financial inequality not going on to create racial inequality, gender inequality, inequalities in education. If you're in school, this is about you. If you plan on going to the hospital anytime soon, and if your loved ones are in the hospital, this has something to do with you. And all of this, ultimately, it rolls up into larger social inequality that affects the lives of everyday citizens at the level at where we live. You don't see it, but you know, this sort of thing, it permeates out into all the other spheres in which we live. It's not just about the money; it's about the quality of human life. So.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, we've got one speaker left, Hussein Forzenda, excuse me. And before he goes on, I just want to say we've got a sign-in sheet going around. We're going to be doing some discussion forums, possibly later this semester or in the springtime. If you want to sign up, you can help organize, lead a discussion, anything like that, or even if you just want to attend and have some information on when they're going to be happening. Sign up, give us your email, we'll send all that info out to you. We've also got some literature going around somewhere. I think Jeff just got back with more copies. So if you want a brochure, they're floating around somewhere. We've got some statistics in here, summary about the movement. We've got some useful resources, as well as some charts, ways to get a hold of people in charge of the movement, organizers, things like that. And lastly, we've got Hussein Forzenda, UCCS graduate, studied in VAPA, the Visual Arts Program. And he's also an organizer with Occupy Colorado Springs. Thanks.
Thank you, Kent. Thank you, guys. Thank you, UCCS, for allowing these types of forums to happen. Joe and Joel did an excellent job of summing up exactly what's going on behind the scenes and why we've ended up where we are right now. So I believe a part of this is also getting to know who's down at Acacia Park. So I'm going to tell you a little about myself and why I'm down there. Also, I encourage everybody to talk to a lot of the members who are in the crowd amongst you right now when this is over, and talk to them and see why they're down there and see how they've been contributing to the movement as well. I grew up here in Colorado Springs. I'm a product of our public school systems, District 11, and of UCCS, of course. I'm also a local actor in town, and lately a heavy activist. I've worked as a Canvas manager. I've worked as a desktop tester and whatnot, and I've also worked for the government as a civilian contractor doing software support, desktop support and whatnot. Now, I spent the last 3 years of my life, about 3 years ago is when it started, I started jumping down this rabbit hole of knowledge and information that's just widespread on the internet that anybody can access right now. And what started it for me was a lot of the conspiracy theories that people are talking about. And yes, there are a lot of crazy conspiracy theories out there, but that's what helped me move forward. And what these conspiracy theories allowed me to do was actually, they facilitated a paradigm shift within myself. And I was actually able to look at things in a different perspective and start to look at things at different angles and see exactly how things are taking place and what the actual facts are. And that's where it's led me, is to actually look at the real facts. Like equity acquisition firms that hold major corporations in one conglomerate, and they have control over like the Dutch energy system, the Chinese schooling systems, our schooling systems. Look at KKR, they're one of the biggest equity acquisition firms in the nation. Also, my major activism also began on YouTube, putting out crazy videos to all my buddies that were on there. Some of them wouldn't pay any attention to them, but are now. YouTube videos about Nikola Tesla, about how he was wronged, about how we could have free energy right now if we wanted to, about Wilhelm Reich, please look him up, brilliant German scientist who discovered orgone energy that could help us today. The AIDS cure patent, look and be crazy, but look it up for yourself. It's on the US government patent website. How MK Ultra is controlling people. How the Fed was formed at Jekyll Island. These are all so-called conspiracy theories that you can find actual facts on. And this will just start leading you into looking at everything in a different aspect. What brought me out in the first place was my lady friend, Christy. She showed me the videos of what was going on in New York about the 4 ladies who were corralled and pepper sprayed for no reason. No police officer there to help give them water or anything. All of the police brutality that's going on around the nation right now, it's just wrong. I look at this, I was born in Tehran, Iran. I'm a naturalized citizen of this great country, okay? And my parents brought me here so I wouldn't have to experience what's going on in different countries right now. When the protests were going on in Iran, I felt for those people. Millions of people out on the streets who were hushed by the government, who were taken to jail, imprisoned, arrested and tortured to shut them up. And I said, thank God I live in a country where I can go stand out on the street. And I did, with my Free Iran sign. And I don't have to worry about being arrested. What's happened now? I looked at what's happening in New York City, in Oakland. 2 veterans of our Marine Corps were brutally injured by our peace forces. That's wrong. This is what brought me out in the first place, seeing all these atrocities happening in our own country. And we're protected by our constitutional rights, which apparently everybody's forgotten about. So, in that light, Christy, she initiated the Facebook page that is up now, along with Kyle, who was another original organizer who started the events Facebook page. We all collaborated, got together, and ended up going down to the corner of Acacia Park with a couple signs, some markers, and just started standing out there for the next few days. Next thing we know, we're getting donations in. Michael Clifton from theexaminer.org has started a donation drive for us. The first week, a gentleman from Boston gave us $500 to go ahead and start our drive. He brought us water and food and snacks. Also did the same thing for Denver, and he's been doing this since we've started. And it's great. The community support from everybody and the outreach received from the community has just been amazing. The moral support and seeing all these people come out here telling us, keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. No matter how difficult this gets. I can't stop anymore. It's been rough. It's been hard dealing with different concepts, different ideas, different people. But it's taught me a lot about myself and how we all need to be working together to progress this movement. Food donations everywhere. Also, we had State Representative Pete Lee come one evening. He stopped by one evening and expressed his overwhelming support for what we're doing. There are very important people who are behind this movement as well. and who want to see it grow bigger, and we all have to do our part in initiating that. If anything, what this has done is allowed a lot of different groups to network and come together, a lot of individuals to come together and realize that we're all on the same page and we're all going for we need a common goal, and that's just change in general. We may not agree on how to get things done and how to fix things right now, but we all know that we can all agree on the problems that are at hand right now. We've had great support. I know there's around the country, people have been saying MoveOn.org has been trying to take over the movement or whatnot. That may be true in some areas, but I just want to say that the group that has joined us downtown, the Move On group that has come, has been very respectful of the movement, respectful of not trying to take over the movement, and they've been there and helping, and they've been great support as well. People from We Are Change have been helping us greatly. The Zeitgeist movement as well has been a great facilitator of this paradigm shift that's happening right now. Also, the ACLU is involved. Our friend Eric here, he's been helping us out greatly, and we're going to get them more involved as well. Our main theme right now, guys, is tell everybody, you need to drop your partisan politics and bring your issues to the floor, because that's what this is about. This isn't about right, left, or any label that you want to put on it. This is a people's movement, for the people, by the people, and we're going to keep it that way. So you may ask yourself, this Congress has all the power. Why won't they fix it? They don't want to. Things are in place because that's the way they want it. If you haven't heard of problem, reaction, solution, please look into that. What these people do is set up a problem, get a reaction from the community, and then give you the solution to fix it. If you hear anybody talking about a global bank or global authority or central bank, run away. Run away. That is not the solution. That is not the solution. One of the best solutions I've heard so far is each state taking control of their own money. Each state doing their own thing, having their own central bank. And all those profits go back to the state. Not an elite group of people who own all the central banks. But to do that, we all just need to stay together. We have a common core. We need to stay together as a core group and keep moving forward with what we need to get done. What we've been doing, we're working with the city as Occupy Colorado Springs. We've decided that, and this has been working. The city's working for us. They've set out an unprecedented permit to allow us to be there for this next year. We're up for a review after our 30 days. They're going to review us and say, hey, you guys have kept the area clean. You've been respectful of people. We'll let you continue on for the rest of the year. At least that's what I hope. Know that we are trying to work with the city. Our next goal is also to I'm putting together a parks proposal. We're going to be putting that towards vote this evening, and we're going to send it out to the state parks group, and they're going to run it up the chain for us, and hopefully we'll be able to occupy Acacia Park without them bothering us. And also my goal with that is also to emphasize that we think that having a permit is wrong and unjust and unconstitutional to do this, because this is our right to protest and peaceably assemble. So hopefully we can do that, and if, in order to do that, we need the numbers. We need people down there to come down there, join us for GA, join us in the discussions, and join us to occupy in general, and show that there is a force of people in this city that want to see this change happen. So on that note, I'll just leave you with a couple quick notes on how little things like Congress can save the Postal Service, guys. All they have to do is get rid of all the money that's in their retirement fund for the next 75 years, and they can bail themselves out, if they want to. Jack Abramoff, one of the crookedest lobbyists in our time, was just interviewed on 60 Minutes last night. Let me say rest in peace to Andy Rooney, by the way. But he was stating himself, explaining how crooked he really was, and how they are able to control the congressman, and how at any one point Jack Abramoff, his lobbying group, his team, were controlling upwards of 100 congressional offices. That's a lot of power. And they're still doing it to this day, as he says. All the regulations that were put in place when he went to jail aren't doing anything. They're doing the same thing. We need to stop these lobbyists controlling everything going on in there. We need to end these big business ties with our government. Also, a great radio interview to listen to on NPR. The transcript is online as well. It's called A Look at the Reported Growth in Wall Street Profits. And what it says that in the first 2 years of Obama's administration, Wall Street's profit has grown more than the entire 8 years of Bush's presidency. Please look up that article. On that note, thank you guys for everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for getting educated and educating everybody else about what's going on. Whose streets? Our streets.
All right, I have a big round of applause for our speakers there. All right, we're going to move on to the discussion section of our teach-in here. So in the interest of time, we're going to try to limit questions and comments to about 2 minutes. You don't have to necessarily have questions for the speakers. If you just have a comment, you want to speak your mind, something like that, that's fine. So just a reminder, please be respectful of people. If you disagree, criticize ideas, don't criticize people. You know, general classroom etiquette, that sort of thing. If you have a comment on someone, you know, on something someone just said, just put your hand up, one finger in the air. Otherwise, if something, you know, a general comment, something maybe not directly related to what was just spoken, just kind of hand up, open palm, that sort of thing. All right, so open the floor up to comments, questions. Yeah.
I'd just like to mention that the first person arrested in Acacia Park for occupying Colorado Springs is Steve Bass. He was here, but he had to run off because his first court appearance is today at 1:30. Now, of course, I guess we can't be there, but let's hope that he prevails because he believes that setting a tent and having a sign is protest. He's protesting. This is not about a no camping ordinance that should be able to infringe our ability to have free speech. So he's taking a stand for all of us, and that's happening at 1:30. Sure.
All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do I have to go to the microphone?
I'll bring it to you.
Okay. I have a question. So you guys want to enact change, but we've proven that a lot of the problems are coming from previous presidents and other people in office. So if we act change, how soon are you expecting to see that?
Sure. Joel? I mean, that's always kind of a tough question. We're Americans. We want instant gratification, right? Long-term satisfaction sometimes is something that eludes us. That's why convenience stores make a buck. Because we're more than happy to pay $6 for a tube of toothpaste if we don't have to go all the way to Walmart and deal with it. Unfortunately, this could potentially become a messy process. And I do not have a crystal ball. I'm not a soothsayer. I am not Nostradamus. How soon this change can actually take place, I don't know. But I would speculate and hypothesize that the speed and velocity of change will be proportionate to the percentage of Americans involved. The more change we will see happen as quickly as possible as more Americans become involved, start asking questions, and demanding that those questions be answered. If I had my druthers, I would like us to see, return to a actual sound and honest currency system tomorrow. But that's not necessarily practical. We have people like Ron Paul that are talking about perhaps instituting currency that's based on either the gold and the silver standard, and making that essentially giving us a competing currency to compete with the Federal Reserve notes. And that potentially could be a good start. But I think that we could start indicting people tomorrow. I think we could start putting people in court tomorrow. I think people could start getting arrested tomorrow for stealing from the American public, for stealing from our children's futures. Well, how quick this change is going to come, I don't know. But the sooner the rest of you guys get involved, the sooner that change will happen.
Nice, thanks. Great question. Yeah. Maybe just come on up, you can speak into the mic, that sort of thing.
Thanks to all the speakers. I'm wondering what specific actions you would recommend that people here take, like closing your bank account if you're with a big bank and moving to a credit union, attending a protest once a week, getting involved in local political campaigns. What specific things can people do here tomorrow or this afternoon?
Yes, ma'am. No, she brought up, for instance, the transfer of your money from the banking system. In my approximation, if we look at the facts, if we look at the actual evidence, and this is as compiled by the Government Accountability Office, the banks that we need to be the most concerned about, who I feel their business practices, their banking practices are unethical and immoral, would be essentially Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Chase. If you have your money in those accounts, I would definitely suggest moving it preferably to a smaller credit union. Obviously, we still need banks. Banks need to lend. Businesses need loans to go out. We don't want to shut down and crash the economy. But we do, if they're messing with our cash flow, I think it's fair that we mess with theirs. One of the things that I've been suggesting in terms of participation and being active, it's one thing to make a clever sign and to get on a corner and to get people to read that sign. But to be honest, why can't we occupy our living rooms? Why can't we occupy an Old Chicago? Why can't we occupy a Starbucks? And while doing that, have a curriculum. Look at, once again, things that are actual facts. Share those with your neighbors. Give them beer and pizza. Give them coffee and donuts. But start exposing them to facts. That'll make them start asking more questions. And then they'll look for more facts. The best thing we can do right now is educate ourselves. And education will turn into thought. And then thought will turn into action. Getting it, all the above as far as what you suggested are things that we should all be doing. Educating ourselves, educating our neighbors, taking part in protests, making clever signage. This is a marketing campaign. This is a sales campaign. This is getting the American people to buy the product of knowledge, financial literacy, and being able to understand what's happening to their dollar. What's happening to our economy. If you look at the actual facts, there's enough what will appear to be circumstantial evidence that points to collusion and collaboration. A lot of people are scared of the word conspiracy, but here's the thing. If you have a paper company, a staple company, and a glue company, aren't those guys going to collude and collaborate with one another to make sure that they all make money? Why not in government and business? So, for right now, the best thing I can say, that step that everybody can take, is to pick facts, learn them, let that turn into thought, thought turn into action, share those thoughts with your neighbors. If this turns into a political force, so be it. If this turns into something else, so be it. But do not let yourself be asleep at the wheel when we crash into this wall.
So, on that note, if you've done the thought and you're ready for action, come on downtown. Come on and meet with us. Get online and talk to us on Facebook or Occupy Colorado Springs at Gmail. Get in touch with us and get in touch with the different working groups that we have involved. Joel is the head of our marketing department. If you're inclined to help out with any marketing aspects of this, please talk to Joel. If you can help us out with maybe writing some advertisements or anything, let me know. I've got a connection with a production studio who would like to give us some time to actually make some radio spots and get the word spread out. As he stated, the people who are working against this movement are spending a lot of money. We need to do the same. And, or in that sense, at least take the same tactic and start getting the word out there. Well, we're also going to be working on a documentary coming up and everything. So anything that anybody has, like any skills that you can contribute, everybody has their own forte and know what they can contribute themselves. It's all about initiating yourselves and activating yourselves to come and contribute to the movement as you see fit, because this is all of our movement. You need to come in with your opinions and your ideas and help us move it along just as everybody else has been doing. And even just getting online and spreading the word does wonders. So you can do a little, you can do a lot, just do something.
And I just want to say education really is an important thing here, and that's really what this is all about, trying to get people educated, teach people about what's going on, and Like I was saying earlier, we're also going to be having educational forums here on campus. If anyone wants to help with those, anyone wants to just attend them, something like that, that'll be going on as well. So, what's next? Yeah. I guess if you've got a question, feel free to come on up here, speak into the mic, that sort of thing.
Bring a wireless next time.
Yeah, wireless would be nice.
I was just wondering, like, other than protesting and being educated, how exactly do you guys plan on accomplishing your goal of ending government corruption and corporate corruption?
I'll be completely honest. I don't know. But what I do know is that in order for us to figure this out, it's going to take all of us putting forth ideas. We need to act as an organism, as a body of mass, and with that mass, we will have gravity. The first thing that we need to do, as I said, is to make sure that when we use our voice, we use it, but we know what we're saying. And essentially, at the end of the day, we need to be saying no. And what form of resistance or action or reaction that no takes, that'll be up to how they react to that no. How this will actually play out, what the end game is, I do not know. But I do know that the end game is going to come whether or not we're aware about it. The end game is going to come whether or not we do anything about it. When that derivative bomb explodes and our economy melts, where are you going to be? What resources are you going to have? How much food do you have in your cupboards? How many bullets and guns and canned food can one person have? That doesn't matter at the end of the day. Because unless you are completely self-sufficient and living off the grid, you're going to be affected when this derivatives bomb vaporizes our money system. And perhaps at that time it won't matter. I wish I had a good answer for exactly how this is going to play out and what the end game is. But I know that the only way we're going to come to one is if we get as many people with as many ideas and as many resources, many perspectives as possible involved. Because what I see to be the solution might be completely different from the solution that you, or you see. But we need to hear what all those potential solutions are before we can figure out and figure out which ones might work and which ones won't work, and then how we're going to spend our energy and resources to get there. But I tell you what, when this country was founded, I don't think George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin looked at each other and said the odds are stacked against us. And maybe they did, but we still have a country, don't we? We still have a constitution. We still have a Declaration of Independence. We still have a Bill of Rights. Europe was the greatest military power. Not Europe, but England and Britain was the greatest military power at that time. We were a bunch of rednecks with guns. We made something happen. Maybe we can make something happen again.
You know, and on that note, this, like I've been telling everybody, is, you know, we can't really start moving forward yet. In that sense, yeah, we had a couple hundred people join us for our first Saturday march. That's great. We've got 20, 50, 60, 100 people join us for GAs every now and then. But we can't really start moving forward until the other 98% shows up to the party. So let's get everybody out there and start hearing everybody's voices. Oh yeah, on the note about doing stuff too, guys, I know this is a lot of people very serious, very political time to go. But in my opinion, this is also a spiritual movement. Anybody in the arts, I mean, I'm a theater major, and I'm still on this super activist side, but come on out with spoken word, write some poetry, spread the word. Come on downtown and join us for GA and just spread the love, you know, just come out here and speak however you feel like you need to express yourself. Because this is everybody's movement in any way that you feel that we need to express, and that'll help us connect to many more people.
Has the group considered that when government being in the government became jobs, that's when the problems came? Because government is a business now. It's not, you go in, you do your job, then you go home back to your job. like back in Washington State, you know, you're president for a while, then you go home. You go to your job. You become a politician or not a politician, but you become part of the government to help your community and your people. Then you go back home when your time is done. If government wasn't big business, if government wasn't a business, would that at least take away half the problem?
I agree. I can't speak for everybody in my movement, but I can speak for myself, and I know that there are a lot of people who believe what I believe, and I agree. Think of it like this. We have this constant revolving door. Over here, we have the military-industrial complex, we have the financial industry, and over here we have government. And we have people that are constantly going from government over to the private sector, and then constantly going back into government, keeping this once again, this revolving door of funds going back and forth. We see all the time, you know, whether it's generals or you know, going into running private security firms, or whether it's people coming directly from Wall Street like Timothy Geithner and Larry Summers and Hank Paulson, who have their buddies on the outside, their golfing partners, the guys that they've been working with or that they went to Ivy League schools with, who are coming to them saying, hey, can I get a bailout? Can I get a handout? That cycle is one of the first things that needs to be broken. And the concept of looking at government and government acting as a big business needs to be broken. I'm a moderate, and I'm not, while I am a fan of Ron Paul, I'm not what we would call a classic libertarian. I do think that we need money for schools, bridges, infrastructure, fire department, police department, etc. But working in the construction industry, in the public sector, I see the waste that big government puts out. I see the money they spend needlessly. I see the levels and levels and levels of redundancy. I see people creating problems, just as Hossein was talking about, so that they could be the solution for that problem, so they can justify their budgets, so they can justify their paychecks. Very simply, it's my approximation that if we're to do one thing and return to the fundamental principles of our Constitution and stick to those, about 60 to 70% of the problems that we're facing right now would never have occurred. Big government having this symbiotic relationship with some of the higher tier industries, and once again we're talking about the pharmaceutical industry, agricultural industry, military industrial complex, and of course, and when we're talking about the financial industry, we're talking about those that created these exotic products. We're also talking about the people from the Securities Exchange Commission who said that these products such as derivatives and credit default swaps were too esoteric for them to know how to control and regulate and tell if there was malfeasance, how to be able to tell if there was fraud. To give you kind of an understanding, like a derivative essentially is an insurance policy. Let's say you buy a house. And when you buy that house, you take out a homeowner's insurance policy on it. With a derivative, and I'm using the house as a metaphor for instance, let's say it's a portfolio of bonds. So when you buy that portfolio of bonds, you can also buy an insurance policy for whether or not, if those bonds are profitable, then you get paid. If not, then somebody will pay you out, so your losses are somewhat covered. Okay, so back to the analogy of the house, you have a homeowner's insurance policy. I can take out an insurance policy on your house as well. If your house burns down, I get paid. So if I see your house on fire, if I see smoke, if I see flame, if I see smoldering, there's moral hazard. Because am I going to try to put it out if I can get paid? Probably not. I would. But what we saw is that there's plenty of people that did not. What led to that, what led to the fact that derivatives exist, what led to the fact that derivatives are now being put into the depository side of the bankings, of the banks such as JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America. What we're talking about there is the fact that that actually came from lobbyists spending money, investing time and energy into the repealing of the Glass-Steagall Act. The Glass-Steagall Act essentially was formed after the Great Depression to be a prophylactic in between investment banks and commercial banks, so that that wouldn't happen. Now that that has been repealed, now we are looking at 53 trillion, and once again, our global GDP is 65, and that's just with Bank of America. According to Bloomberg.com, JP Morgan's looking to do the same thing with about 79 trillion. $79 trillion. So if we have 79 trillion plus another 53 trillion in those derivatives that are covered by the FDIC, in one day we can see our quality of life literally evaporate as we know it. And that right there came from the symbiotic relationship between government and business. And that does need to change. That does.
Hello. Okay. The way you just said about government and business being together, how does the government contracting all of their jobs out to like Lockheed Martin and Boeing and all that kind of stuff, especially in the like power industries? How is that going to or what change needs to be made there in order to bring the big business of government down?
Okay. Actually, and that's a great question. And actually, when I've worked in government, one of the things I've seen is, for instance, SAIC. I've seen companies like FEIC or Lockheed Martin or other companies. They'll actually go without oversight, and they'll start basically these splinter companies and set themselves as 8A firms, essentially, where they can be listed as a WMBE or something of that nature, and set themselves up for different contracts. And there's really a lot of times no oversight. Actually kind of a funny thing to touch on that is in terms of the government contracts, when they initiated basically an oversight program with the Federal Reserve recently, guess who they hired at no bid contracts, at literally millions and millions and billions of dollars per contract to oversee this initiative of oversight? It was JP Morgan Chase and the other financial firms that already essentially benefited from those undisclosed, aka secret bailouts. So we need to keep the fox from overlooking the henhouse. And unfortunately, we have a habit of putting the fox in charge of the henhouse and then wondering why we don't have any hens. Obviously, I think Kent here has some stuff he'd like to add to that, but that's essentially my point on that.
We've privatized particularly the logistics issues going on in the military. That's one of the big things that you see. It's been, I think, more than tripled in the size of the amount of the military that's been outsourced into private industry. It is something that it's showing the interplay between the government and large businesses. These big businesses come in, they get these contracts, and they're essentially making money off their friends in things like the military. The body scanners that were controversial at the airport, just before the TSA signed a contract to put those in every airport in this country, Obama was vacationing in India with the CEO of the company inventing them. So there's these ties going on. It's people's friends, their buddies. It's called the power elite. People working together in government and big business, where they're getting these contracts, and that's where all of this is coming from, essentially. And one more comment on this real quick, and then we'll get to Tim.
Yeah, so all these contracts with Lockheed and everything, that's mainly because 60% of our national budget goes towards a military complex. And unfortunately, most of that budget goes towards weaponry and chemical weapons and stuff like that, and not towards protecting our troops and taking care of our veterans when they come home. So it's really about refocusing all this stuff and realizing where all this money's really going. It's all about accountability, folks. It's all about accountability.
Hi, my name is Eric Verlo. I'm a member of Occupy Colorado Springs, and I'm also part of Occupy Denver. And I wanted to suggest one other thing that you can do if you're looking for something to do to be involved. And that would be on Saturdays, go up to Denver. Go up to Denver and march with whatever they're marching for. And you'll get an amazing education about how much our government is afraid of this movement.
And I can advise you can take your kids. I mean, you may have heard of the police violence up in Denver. It's amazing to watch. I have never felt at risk, but you watch these platoons of cops maneuver in full riot gear with all these weapons. That is frightening to see, but you know that in your heart you're there to express yourself, that you're an American, that no one has a right to do this to you, and you can step aside and you won't get hurt. So, but I would really advise you, if you want some for exciting times, get up there and see the amazing violence that the government wants to put, wants to throw against this movement. And so you may not know what this movement is about, but obviously they do. They know, and so when they can look to us and say, well, what is it you're asking for? Well, evidently they know what they're worried about what we're asking for, so I think we can take our cues from them. So if you have a chance, just any Saturday, I mean it's happening other days as well, but if you have a chance on a Saturday, go up there and you'll have an amazing fun time. I guarantee it.
All right, any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, so my question is, we hear about how the government's bad, how the government is bailing everyone out, and my question is, sure, like I love the fact that if we don't agree with it, we're allowed to protest, but at the same time, I don't see it being really effective. The way I see it being effective is actually lobbying, going to our government leaders and trying to get them to change it, going to the congressmen, going to the senators, seeing if they can change it. And my question is, how come there has been more of that?
If I may. That's an excellent question. And in fact, the answer that I would have for that is because we're still kind of in our stages of our infancy. In order for us to be, effective, we need to have a little bit of structure, and structure comes with maturity of an actual organization. And it's hard to be perhaps politically effective in that format, operated from a street corner and a camp, living outside in a tent. I do see it going that direction. I do see this having political weight. I do see in our future offices and computers and marketing budgets. But to get there, we need bodies. We need gravitas. We need weight. We need you. But that is where I would like to see it go personally. And I can't speak for everybody. But I plan on getting more active. And I plan on talking to my city council people. I plan on talking to my mayors. I plan on talking to whoever I need to talk to that are in positions of power that have the resources that I can use, whether those be intellectual or otherwise. I think this will turn into a movement such as what you've spoken about. But it will take organization. Organization will take resources and maturity and basically us getting to the next level. And hopefully you can help us do that.
I have a simple answer to that, my friend. We can't afford lobbyists. Right, and that's one of the things that we've seen a big change in with technology and with the internet. It's contact with people's congressmen, with your senator. I think it's quadrupled the amount of letters that congressmen, city councilmen, and senators, members of the House, all of that, the amount of contact that they have with the public now. It's really easy. Go on the internet. You can go to I think it's colorado.gov, and you can find your representatives, find their email address, shoot them an email real quick. It's as easy as that. Real simple, and you can just get involved like that. Other questions? Yeah.
We're obviously a superpower in the world. We have universities. We're here right now. We've done lots of good things. So by enacting this change with dropping with the big businesses, what are some of the sacrifices we're going to have to make in order to do that?
The Federal Reserve.
So no bailouts is what you're saying?
Some of the sacrifices we're going to have to make, honestly, it's not going to be about the 99%. It's not going to be about the little people making sacrifices as much as it is the people on the top. It is a zero-sum game. As a country, we earn a certain amount of wealth, and it becomes, right now it's going into the hands of those who are very wealthy, those who are at the top. And really it's going to be those people who are going to have to be making sacrifices. It's going to be the CEOs of Goldman, it's going to be Goldman Sachs. It's going to be all of these very rich people who are really going to be sacrificing. And what that's going to entail is essentially, instead of getting these multi-million-dollar bonuses at the end of the year, paid for by taxpayers, it's going to be, it's going to be a limit on the sorts of things that they can get, and it's going to be. I mean, this movement is not about us sacrificing. It's about the 99%, the people on the bottom of the scale, really coming up, really gaining more.
And on that, this is why we're trying to move forward with a peaceful revolution. A non-peaceful revolution would mean sacrificing a lot for us. There's some people that don't understand that, and they don't understand why we're working with the city and why we've accepted this permit. But it's just a stepping stone. We have to work within the system to change the system. So hopefully it doesn't lead to that, and hopefully all the sacrifices that will have to be made will be by the elite 1%.
I would just like to add to that, with all my talk earlier about the American Revolution, the fact is we live in a day and age where honestly, technology has advanced so far, especially within the military-industrial complex, that to try to sit out there, like some of these other groups with their rifles and everything showing up to tea parties and whatnot, that's really not going to be effective. Because at the end of the day, there's technologies that can render guns and bullets and bombs relatively obsolete. And honestly, in order to get the rest of America to kind of join in, I really just think we need to be articulate. I just think we need to act dignified. I think we need to remind people of what our citizenship means and the responsibilities that come with that. And it really just might be that simple, because the best weapon, the most effective weapon that a man has in today's day and age in terms of this paradigm is our voice. Now granted, what you have to be saying has to be thoughtful, and it has to be based upon substantial facts, but that voice is what we have. And that voice is what I think is going to change the world.
Anybody else have any questions?
Anybody? Bueller?
Comments? Discretions?
I have a question. Do you think we're ever going to see an Occupy presidential candidate or any kind of political party? I think it's going to get that far.
In my opinion, I think Congress and our government hopes that that will be the case, and they hope that this system will stay in place for them to manipulate. I don't see this movement going that route personally. I think this is a movement, this is a protest, this is not a political campaign, and it's about changing everything and making everybody realize what's going on, and those people are doing wrong. And there are plenty of people who are on that end that are coming and turning around and realizing what they are doing is wrong, like Jack Abramoff. I mean, it took him 3 years in jail to figure it out, but still, Does that help? On behalf of Occupy Colorado Springs, I'd just like to again thank everybody. And thank you, UCCS, thank you, Kent, Theo, Kaylee, Joe, everyone. We got one more question. Yeah.
All right, hey, I'm a student. My name's David Pendergast. I'm a student up here. And my question, not to these guys in particular, but to people in general, is you hear a lot about, the rich, that we need to make them sacrifice and stuff like that. The thing that isn't mentioned, though, is you do have people that are, they're fortunately enough born in the United States, where they have the opportunity to work their whole entire lives to make that wealth. They didn't steal that money from anybody. They earned that money. I mean, they got up every day at 5 in the morning. They sacrificed being away from their families and their kids, to give their kids a better opportunity. So these people legitimately earn that money, just like, hopefully we all have the opportunity to do the same. But what you see is a lot of people get thrown into one pile as the rich, and they all get categorized as the bad guys. Okay, and within that that category, there are people that legitimately earned it, and I understand where you guys are coming from, where you have people that have done stuff maybe that's illegal or whatever, or they've used one word to sell, for example, the situation that we have in the United States right now. You have those guys that have said, "Oh, invest your money in these products or in this housing thing." I forget what they call them, five-year arms or whatever. And then as soon as they sell those products to people through the stock market, then behind closed doors they go around and they bet their money against those things so that they'll collapse, which that's what they're doing. Okay, so that obviously is wrong. But you can't just throw everybody in the pile and say everybody that's rich is an evildoer. And my other part of that question is, if we're really concerned about getting out there and stopping that kind of stuff, or voicing our, voicing our opinion about it, then how come, and this has been addressed on the news and stuff, how come we're not out there, at the White House saying, hey, why is your administration, and I'm not saying any particular administration, but I'm just saying, the people that have been in charge and the ones that are in charge right now, they're the ones that are, pushing for this stuff. And how come we're not out there, knocking on that door, at 1600 Pennsylvania, saying, hey, why are you guys allowing this stuff? Why is this stuff being pushed in Congress? All right, and so, for me, my question is, why haven't we really marched? If you're saying that you have all this compassion and enthusiasm behind everything, that should also be part of your enthusiasm also, to stop it at that level also.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry, what was your name again? David, did you have a chance to listen to my first introduction earlier? Okay, and actually I touched on a lot of that. Once again, I'm a capitalist, I'm a construction guy. I'm actually one of those guys that wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning and goes to work, and oftentimes works till 6 or 7 o'clock at night. The problem that I have with this, obviously not capitalism. Capitalism, pursuit of profit, in my approximation, is what drives innovation. And once again, if you can work harder, work smarter, and take better risks with your investment in your capital, if that leads you to earn 10, 20, 100, 1,000, a million times more than your next door neighbor, I'm fine with that, as long as it's done honestly. And my point being is that if you look at financial data, oftentimes compiled by federal bureaus, you will see a trend and what I consider to be circumstantial evidence of a financial coup that has taken place in this country. And to address your question with the White House, I think that financial coup has manifested itself as a political coup. And the question is, why are we not occupying the White House? That's a great question. Because honestly, they're just as complicit and just as involved. And if it wasn't for them paving the road for these, and once again, I'm not against corporations, but I am against companies like Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers doing exactly what you talked about, selling products and then betting against them behind closed doors. And what that's manifested itself is not been just, a couple of rich getting richer. If you look at the Congressional Budget Office, they recently came out with a report showing the difference between the first percent, the tops of income, and then compare that to the next 10% directly below them. And their increase in income has been disproportionate to even that next 10th percentile. And that's something I think that we need to take into consideration. Because what that does, that kills a capitalist's ability to make capital, to spend capital, to invest capital. This financial coup that I think has taken place has devastated, decimated, and ruined the American small business. And the American small business, that's what employs the vast majority of us. I want to return to so that as a capitalist, I can actually invest money and know that my dollar is still going to be worth $1. Because when quantitative easing happens, which essentially is a cash injection into society by the banks printing money out of thin air, as they print that money, the value of your dollar declines. The value of your savings declines. The value of your buying power with your money so that you can invest in your business and buy equipment and buy trucks and to pay for guys. To pay for labor, pay for materials, to pay for all your operating expenses, the value of that dollar goes down. Look at the problem is really at the end of the day is that we, as a people, 100%, not just the 1%, we as a people, we consume more than we produce. As a country, we consume more than we produce. Globally, we consume more than we produce financially. And we need to rebalance that in my approximation and produce more than we consume. And that along with restoring ourselves in terms of actually observing the tenets of our Constitution will hopefully get America back on the right track. So when my son is 18 and he's going to school and he gets out and he wants to start a construction business, there will actually be business that can be had. There will be projects that will be going on. But as of right now, the future for my 7-year-old looks very bleak, and we need to change that. You guys probably have kids too. Any other questions, comments, concerns? This young lady again. Hi!
Again?
We'll be made eye contact.
Hi, my name's Kristen. I'm a sociology major, and I know that there has been some question about what can we do besides going out and occupying. I know that we're all very busy. I know that we're all college kids. I know that it takes a lot for us to take time out of our day because we are very busy. But I was really, really inspired by a video on YouTube the other day. I sent it to Kent, and I may have sent it to Jeff. I can't remember if I did, but if I didn't, I will send it to you. But it was really inspiring. It was this guy, and he said, listen, we all get junk mail. Everybody gets crap junk mail in the mail. We all get credit card, we all get credit card statements. We all get this and that. We can send it back to them. Take those little cards that are paid for by the banks, send it back to them, make them pay to protest back, leave them a little message, say, Occupy Wall Street. I was reading an article on Yahoo the other day that said one of the only industries that's not in decline right now is like personal defense, like private companies that serve as like security for all these banking guys, and they're sitting up at their big offices looking down in these protests, and it's a giant wall. What if we took these envelopes, sent back a message, made them pay for it, and when they get all these hundreds of thousands of messages in their mailroom saying Occupy Wall Street, we've infiltrated the building. You know what? Like they're not gonna, yeah.
And I would also like to encourage people while doing that, you can get wood shims, roofing shingles, other things of that nature to put in the envelope to make it more weighty and therefore more expensive and more of a drain on their resources. And just to add a little bit of fun to the game. Why can't protesting be fun, guys? Why can't it be hilarious? Why can't it be witty? It can be. And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, protest and make them pay for it. That's good. Do it in your living room.
Occupy your mailbox.
All right, any other questions? Yeah.
I don't know if I need the microphone for this, but by sending mail back, doesn't that make the post office unnecessarily pay for something?
No, the postage is paid for by the company. Yeah. So it's not paid for by the post office. When you have it said, when you have the little area that says stamp, where you don't have to put the stamp, that means that they have an account. You'll notice that there's usually a UPC code on the bottom of the envelope. It goes through a reader, and that UPC code basically will charge your account. That doesn't cost the post office or the taxpayer anything.
It creates jobs for the post office.
It creates jobs for the post office. They can use the help right now. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the post office, but...
Anybody else? No? All right, well, we are just about out of time anyway. I just wanted to go ahead and thank all of our speakers for giving us their time today.
Thank you.
We had Joel, Hussein, and then Joe Langston. I think he's already off out and about. And I wanted to thank our sponsors one more time. Give me just a second.
Anonymous.
We had the Social Science Symposium Series, the Sociology Department, Faculty Minority Affairs Committee, and the Matrix Center all sponsored us. So how about a big round of applause for them, guys. And of course, I wanted to thank the organizers as well. We had Jeff Montez de Oca, Haley Blood,
thank you,
Theo Holtwig, and then myself. Yeah, and we will be doing we'll be doing some forums later on this semester and next semester. More education about the issues and about the movement and that sort of thing. So if you didn't get a pamphlet, we've got more going around. They've got contact information, charts, ways to get involved, that sort of thing. So I just want to thank everyone for coming out today. It went really well. Thanks.
God bless America.
Thank you guys. Join us for General Assembly noon and 7 every day downtown.
Whoop, whoop.